WWE Evolution is over, and just want to say that this may be the best pay-per-view of the entire year, and which is all the more impressive when you consider that a lot of these matches only had like about a 2 week build or something like that to it. So yeah, before we kind of like really get into it, there are some thoughts I have on this pay-per-view, which I feel like are kind of quite generic thoughts and quite overview type thoughts. And what I mean by that is that they're sort of thoughts that I felt kind of like apply to a lot of the matches in this card. So I'll just kind of get them out of the way first and foremost, just because I don't want to risk kind of like repeating myself too much. But yeah, I felt like I said, I thought this pay-per-view was really strong. I thought every single match on this match card I really enjoyed. I thought were really pretty solid to one degree or another. I did feel that overall some of the matches felt a bit too rushed. I felt they were all of the matches had quite a fast pace to them. They were quite in some matches this really worked really well, and it just felt so smooth and so clean and so precise. And then others where I just felt that could have done with a bit more. That could have with a bit more padding. This pay-per-view ran for about 3 hours 20 minutes by my clock, something like that. I will remind that this ran to about 4 hours. Do you know what I mean? And I felt like I was being kind of even a bit more satisfied there, because yeah, well, obviously we've had pay-per-views before where it's been sort of like around the 3 hour mark, and they've only been like by like that magic number of like 5 match cards. So which has been kind of like the sweet spot, at least from Triple H's point of view, I guess. A lot of them match cards have always been kind of like 4 or 5 match cards, which I'm not really a big fan of. So I'm kind of hoping that this pay-per-view ends up being the catalyst of it, and the success which the early buzz I've seen from the line has been really positive to this pay-per-view. I'm just kind of like hoping that this kind of start something now, and we get a little bit more kind of like around the 7 match cards for the pay-per-views, because I think that's just kind of like much more of a sweet spot. I felt like this so like I said, it had a really frantic pace to it, and I just felt like some just kind of like could have done with a bit more padding. We started off the night with the triple threat intercontinental title between Becky Lynch, Laura Valkyria, and Bayley. And this was a match where I kind of said in my predictions video I was expecting Laura Valkyria and Bayley to kind of cancel each other out, leaving up this window for Bayley to pick up a victory, and that's pretty much what happened. But the way that it was executed was just so quick fire, so fast paced, so smooth, so clean. Obviously the chemistry that these 3 people have is just brilliant. We knew that, we knew that going into this match. So we knew that it wasn't going to disappoint. It did feel kind of a bit too was over a bit too quick when I was watching it, but looking back, it ran for about 15 minutes, which I guess kind of like in hindsight is kind of a right time, really, especially seeing as that a lot of people, I think Becky Lynch was kind of a favourite to kind of win this match. It seemed right. So we then went into the JC Jane and Jordan Grace match, and so again this was another really strong match, and it just it ended with with Blake Monroe heel turn, where she appeared to be helping Jordan Grace from Fatal Influences interventions, with the title belt, and she took the title belt off Fatal Influence. The Jordan Grace was thrown into the ropes, and as she came off the ropes, Blake Monroe hit her in the back with the belt, for JC Jane to pick up the win. And yeah, this was again just like this was a heel turn that was just kind of like out of the blue, and I like it. I like that we're not kind of getting all these heel turns that are kind of like really preempted, because I think like the idea of heel turns is that they are meant to not really kind of make too much sense in the in immediately. The only real kind of sense I can make is that, and I don't know too much about it, is only kind of what I'd heard in about hearsay and people who like know much more about wrestling than I do. But when Blake Monroe was in AEW, she was a heel, so I guess they kind of like had sort of taken a bit from that and sort of seen what a commodity she could be as a heel, and I guess that's kind of like played into it, I guess maybe. But in terms of the storytelling, in terms of what they're kind of telling with Jordan Grace and stuff, yeah, you know, we kind of still waiting for kind of the answers. So, and that's what a heel turn is meant to do. You know, they're meant to want to make you tune into the next episode of what in this case would be NXT, and you know, kind of think, yeah, well, what is going to be the fallout from this? What are going to be the answers? And you know, what are going to be the developing points? I mean, from this point on, we had. I guess obviously the most obvious thing that we're going to see from here on out now, in terms of this match, it will be obviously we're going to have a feud between Jordan Grace and Blake Monroe, and yeah, so yeah, and I haven't even kind of like speculated on what we're gonna go into see from the triple threat match between Becky Lynch, Rhea Valkyrie, and Bayley, have I? So yeah, I'll just get that out of the way. First of all, I mean, they could run the triple threat again. I mean, you know, as I said, Bayley, Rhea Valkyrie, Becky Lynch, they all have these like great chemistries. So they could just totally run this again. Something's telling me they're not going to do that though. I think my gut feeling is they're just going to kind of like have spin Lyra Valkyria and Bayley off, and they're going to just have their feud. Probably they're going to have a feud at SummerSlam, and they're going to try and have some quick build for Becky Lynch. That's going to be this separate feud. So we'll just, you know, we'll have to see how it goes. But I mean, you know, running this again a triple threat again at SummerSlam is not out of the realms of possibility neither. But yeah, it just kind of like my sixth sense is telling me that yeah, they're going to kind of move away from Becky Lynch a bit, and Becky Lynch is going to find her own feud, and we're just going to have more of a focal point on Bayley and Lyra Valkyria feud. And then maybe kind of like revisit the Becky Lynch kind of further down the line. So yeah. Third up, we had the Fatal 4-Way tag team match between the Judgment Day champions, Raquel Rodriguez and Roxanne Perez, against Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss, against the Kabuki Warriors, against Sol Rukia and Zarya. And again, this was just another really great match. Really really fast-paced match. I did feel like this was one of the matches I was affected by kind of the quick pace. I feel like this could have run a bit longer, considering we did have four exceptionally talented tag teams in here. I would like this to be just kind of stretched out a little bit more. I mean, not overly, but yeah, I think it kind of could have done with a little bit more padding. In my predictions video, I predicted that we were going to see Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair picking up a victory, because I was so kind of like convinced by the push that they were trying to kind of give these. And this match was littered full of some really great individual moments. On that note, with the Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair, we had Charlotte Flair rescuing Alexa Bliss, and just kind of like had these had another really great another really individual moment between Sol Ruka and Zarya, where Zarya accidentally took out Sol Ruka, I think it was, and we just kind of like had which might kind of like hint at a falling out, but between Sol Ruka and Zarya, so that might be another potential thing. A part of me is kind of hoping they don't, because there was just kind of like seeing Sol Ruka and Zarya, and I'm a big fan. I am a fan of these as a tag team, I gotta say. So I do think they have like bright futures. So and obviously the Raw tag team division at the minute is really kind of struggling. So I think that it would be, I don't think calling these two up and having them as bringing them as a tag teams into the Raw is not the worst idea in the world. But yeah, there is a potential that this just doesn't kind of happen. I mean, I mean. Who knows? I mean, we could potentially see this as a bit of a fallout. It could just be a kind of like a one and done, a bit of a. I remember when there was the Royal Rumble, I think it was, where we thought that there was going to be a fallout between Chelsea Green and Piper Niven after Piper Niven eliminated Chelsea Green, I think it was, and obviously that never kind of came to pass. So this could be like a one and done kind of like, and they could just kind of like move on. They could just be like, yeah, I get it was an accident, and just kind of move on, but. Yeah, like I said, a part of me is kind of like hoping they do, because I am kind of liking those two as a tag team match. So we had then the Tiffany Stratton against Trish Stratus match. This was like a shortest match on the match card, I think, and it was rightfully so. This was about the only match I think I didn't get into a double digits, and I think it was kind of like rightfully so. It was kind of like it didn't really need to be long. It was a bit the most kind of exhibition-y match of all of them. So it didn't kind of need to be kind of any really longer than it needed to be for what for the about 7-8 minutes that it went on for. The two women did great. They had actually better chemistry than I was anticipating, and they got they had a lot better much more better spots in that 7 or 8 minutes than a lot of the men's could have done in that time, to be fair. So yeah, I just thought it was it didn't need to be kind of too time consuming, especially considering that this was kind of the easiest match on the match card to call as well, because I think we were all kind of like convinced that there was just not a chance in hell that they were going to have Trish Stratus winning the title off Tiffany Stratton here. So yeah, we then moved on to the Jade Cargo and Naomi No Holds Barred match with Bianca Belair as special guest referee, and this was a match that again had some really great spots. It really utilised the No Holds Barred stipulation really well. There was, like I said, they used the No Holds Barred spots really well. There was a bit about Jade Cargill getting put through the table. There was a moment with Jade Cargill wrapping a chain around her fist and hitting Naomi with it. There was a special effects a little bit where I think it was where with the table panel of the announce table sparking off, and it would, there were some really good spots here. Like I said, could have done with being again a little bit longer, but again, it wasn't. The only real complaint I have of this match is the Bianca Belair element. It just seemed to. I wasn't a fan of the Bianca Belair being the special guest referee in this. It did remind me a bit on the road to WrestleMania, where she was special guest referee between Io Sky and Rhea Ripley. It was kind of like so shoehorned. It was so kind of like apparent that they were kind of shoehorning there into this, and it just kind of like didn't really and I especially seeing as this was just as nonsensical because it was a no holds barred match, so the whole idea of Nick Aldis kind of going, well, this is a no holds barred match, so we need Bianca Belair to be special guest referee to kind of maintain some order in it, and it's like, but this is like the whole idea of a no holds barred stipulation is that it can descend into chaos. So it's like it made no sense. It was so it was just, but we kind of like went with it because we were like, well, obviously there's some work here, there's some angle here, and so we're going back our brain about what that is going to be, that angle, is it going to be that Bianca Belair is just gonna, obviously she's got kind of emotional and historical ties to these two people, so is that pressure of being kind of like impartial and just being, the sheer violence and aggression that can be unloaded in the no holds barred match, is that just going to be too emotionally overwhelming for Bianca Belair to remain impartial in the face of all that? And is that going to kind of like and causing her to sway and end up causing Jade Cargill and Naomi the match? Or is there going to be some like no, nothing. Like, you could have inserted a regular referee into this match in place of Bianca Belair and it would not have made any difference whatsoever, because there was just nothing. Like Bianca Belair was a good referee, to be fair. She was impartial throughout. She was fair throughout. She raised Jade Cargill's hand at the end when she picked up the victory. So there was just like so it was like there was no real kind of reason for Bianca Belair to kind of be it. The only rationale I can come up with for Bianca Belair being in this was that obviously they were kind of like just like, well, Bianca Belair is still out injured. She's not clear to wrestle yet, but we've got this big women's celebration, the pay-per-view coming up. Obviously Bianca Belair is one of the biggest stars in that, so we can't leave her off. So we just got to find a way of getting her on the card somewhere in some kind of remit. I don't know, like, obviously what the rationale behind it was. I'm only speculating, but that's just kind of like how it seemed. That's the only reason I can come up with as to why Bianca Belair was here. But other than that, a really solid match. We then had the 20 women Royal Rumble, which again, this is the one where like I said about the fast pace, we could have done with a bit more filling out here. This is the match that I think was the most negatively affected by this kind of, because I felt this is the one that kind of maybe would have benefited the most from more padding. You had like a 20 women Royal Rumble and this run about 15 minutes, something like that. So it was just, and it just kind of felt like it meant that there were a lot of entrants here which were just kind of like tossed over the top rope kind of unceremoniously. Yeah, it like I said, I felt like this. It still um, obviously kept my attention. It still entertained me for about the 15 minutes that it lasted. I felt it did get better as it went on when we got to Mount Morton, like the final five and stuff like that. It did kind of pick up. It did get better as it went on, but yeah, the first half, especially of this match, was just looked so kind of rushed, so kind of like seemed to be executed so unceremoniously. Yeah, like I said, I think this is just a one that could have done with kind of just filling out a little bit the most. And then we obviously got to the main event between Io Sky defending the women's championship against Rhea Ripley. Oh, right, okay. So, yeah, so in my predictions video, obviously I'd said I was an absolute over Io Sky fan, so it kind of like pained me to think, to admit that in my heart of hearts, I knew that um, I couldn't really see coming out of this pay-per-view with still being the champion. I just thought it would, there was going to be, especially seeing as they hadn't really done anything with since becoming champion, apart from obviously that banger triple threat match at WrestleMania. Rhea Ripley is just one of the most over women's talent at the minute in WWE, possibly the most fan favorite. So we got obviously Crown Jewel and Perth show coming up as well, which obviously should be kind of like even more over, if that's even possible, with that crowd. So it just looked like that Rhea Ripley was going to finally pick up a victory, especially seeing as also part of his storyline was that Io Sky had been Rhea Ripley's kind of Achilles heel, her kind of kryptonite, that she had never been able to beat Io Sky. So to kind of like justify keep on running this back, there kind of has to be a time where she finally has to kind of like get that monkey off her back, so to speak, and finally pick up a victory against Io Sky. And now I did so. That I did play obviously into it as the match went on, but I was so unprepared for the amount of stress that this match was going to unload. I went into this match with kind of a bit of a bittersweet feeling in my a bit of a sad Io Sky fan, where I'm like, okay, yeah, let's just get this over with. All right, yeah. So unprepared was I for the amount of stress that was about to kind of unfold, because as we all know, this was, Io Sky and Rhea Ripley, they're two phenomenal talents at the top of their game. They're going to put on a banger of a match, and this is absolutely what it was. I've heard people even saying already that this was the best women's match ever. I don't know about that. I mean, I'm not going to deny it. Do you know what I mean? But I'd have to kind of like look into a bit deeper to kind of like make that assertion. But it was definitely a banger match. It was as stressful as it was as it went on. They're just the in-ring performances, the chemistry, the little bit of comedic moments between the two, where they were kind of like taunting and mocking each other. Just everything about this was, even the storytelling, where it started off with kind of all the kind of mocking of each other. It was kind of almost done in a very bantery way, as they kind of admitted in during the match that they had like the most utmost respect for each other, and then it went into where Io Sky and had inadvertently taken out the referee, and it was like, okay, so there's going to be shenanigans in this match. Where's the shenanigans coming from? It's not. I mean, it seemed even less likely when Naomi was going to go in there, especially seeing it where Naomi and Jade Cargill was on the match card, and the what kind of like Naomi kind of enjoyed during the match. It seemed even less likely that was going to be a possibility. So we were like, where does the shenanigans come from? What's going on here? What's the play? But it did utilize that storyline really well, because it was because while the referee was out, Rhea Ripley was able to hit the Riptide, get the 1-2-3, but there was no referee to obviously count, so she couldn't pick up a win. And this was just when Rhea Ripley just kind of like lost it. This is where she realized that she had finally had a moment where she had finally pinned the Sky for the 1-2-3, and it didn't amount to anything because Io Sky had just inadvertently taken out the referee. So she just totally lost it, totally unloaded on Io Sky, totally this went this beating kind of overflowed into the crowd, and I was getting so worried for this. I thought, is there going to be where Io Sky is going to get put through speaker or whatever, and we're not going to see her for weeks or whatever, oh my god. And then Io Sky fought back, and she climbed up onto the boxes, which are about to be about 15 feet in the air, and jump off hitting Rhea Ripley with a crossbody. And honestly, it was so stressful kind of like watching this period of a match. It really was. And then we get back into the ring, and we had Io Sky looking to pick up a win. This kind of coincided with just the referee just recovering to make a 1-2-3. We had Rhea Ripley though kick out of this, and so the stress continued. We had, and just call me Mystic Meg, because through about the second half of this match, I just had this vision of the ring post playing a part, and I thought, Io Sky's head is going to go bashing off this ring post. It's going to happen at some point during this match. I can see it happening, and it happened. Io Sky's head went banged off a ring post. We had this Rhea Ripley kind of like, always kind of like heelish kind of like grin, where she had realized and she was totally prepared to kind of win this really kind of like take this really underhanded victory that Io Sky was there for the taking, which didn't surprise me. I've never kind of like seen Rhea Ripley as a baby face. I've always seen her kind of being able to easily lean into this kind of heelish thing, so it just didn't really it didn't really kind of like surprise me, but it was a nice really kind of individual moment in terms of obviously that storytelling, where obviously we had before her expressing obviously the respect that she had, and now obviously because of how this match unfolded, all that was now gone, and she just kind of like was just prepared to kind of like totally disrespect the Sky and just do what was kind of like necessary to finally pick up a win. So she so they were both on the top rope, and we were just sure that this was the end. I was so confident this was the end. I was like, okay, we're finally at an end. Okay, just okay, we're just do your super riptide off the top, and this is it. This is the end. And then all of a sudden, just completely out of nowhere, this Spanish fly off the top rope. They both come crashing down. They're both kind of like laid out in the ring, and it was only then that it dawned on me what was going to happen next. My brain was about a second ahead of Naomi's music at this point, and Naomi's music hit, and I couldn't quite believe what I was seeing, and all I could really think is Naomi was coming down, was like, please don't let this be another fake cash, please don't let this be another fake cash, and as much as I love about on EO, don't let this be another fake cash in, please. No, this was totally legit this time. Naomi was cashing in. She hit Io Sky with the briefcase, throwing Rhea Ripley out of the ring, and getting the moonsault off the top rope, to pick up the win and becoming the new women's champion. And it was just, honestly, this got such a big pop as well. And I gotta say, it was the right decision. I thought it was. I mean, obviously, before this PLA, I was convinced that we were going to have Jade Cargill and Tiffany Stratton play out, and then probably what was going to happen was Jade Cargill was going to win the title of Tiffany Stratton, and then Naomi's music was going to hit, and that was going to make the cash in. It wasn't, and I'm glad they didn't go for that kind of obviously, because I do think that these cash-ins, for them to be effective, they do need that shock element. They do need to be kind of like unprecedented. They do need to kind of come from nowhere, and this was exactly what this was. I feel like it was done in exactly the right way. Where we kind of go from here, I do kind of like to. I mean, I think it's kind of feasible that Naomi is going to just have that target on her back now. Obviously, Rhea Ripley is still going to be hungry for this title. Io Sky is going to be hungry for the title back. That's going to be the play here. So they're going to be kind of like coming after Naomi like charging bulls. So I wouldn't be surprised if we just do a triple threat here. I could feasibly see a triple threat at SummerSlam, and which will mean that obviously that Io Sky and Rhea Ripley, they'd just be like Batman and the Joker at this point. They're just destined to do this dance forever. Do you know what I mean? Because they are just their rivalry is so good together. It seems like they're just kind of destined to kind of do this forever. But like I said, I'm right to complain about that, because like I said, every time they are together, they're just banging. I thought, obviously this match they put on has got such a big pop. Obviously the last match they had with a triple threat with Bianca Belair at WrestleMania was like arguably the best match of that event. Arguably a contender for the best women's triple threat match, and just before then, when they thought we had the shock value of Io Sky actually beating Rhea Ripley to win the title on an episode of Raw, no less, which was just crazy. It was just that we had such a big title change like that just before a pay-per-view, might I add. And so every time that they've got these two together in whatever kind of format or dynamic they've kind of done it, it's just been brilliant. They just work so well together, and like I said, we could just run this till they both kind of retire. They really could. This could just be one of those. So yeah, that pretty much wraps it up. Thank you guys for taking the time to watch this video. If you like this video and you want to see more, don't forget to ring the bell for notifications. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And I'll see you on the next video. Thank you. Bye.